Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Consciousness Q&A with Robert J. Lakhani, Hindu Academy. So, the first 11 minutes and about 30 seconds, I literally had nothing to say. So if you want to watch the whole thing without interruption, or just the whole thing in general, link in the description. But I stopped right here, just because again, I think I tried to react this before, and I was literally just sitting here doing nothing. And now, got the quantum going from physical to mathematic, then empirical evidence to quantum. Now we're here with how the selfish gene suggests the creation is drive. So there's no CC. Let's go get started.
I'm just going to.
I wanted to ask you, Brahman. I was so amazed to find that you know the word Brahman.
It was from that book. I said I've been reading around the houses, and if that's the what you're saying about quantum physics and all these physicists is they're trying to find something out of nothing. It's a wild goose chase. They're never going to get there.
Yep.
And the whole notion of Brahman is that, isn't it? That it's unknowable. I believe the truth. So
It's not a cop out. People feel that it's like throwing in the towel, saying, "Look, we can't explain it, so forget it." And it's not like that. To the contrary, it in a way holds the key of how sciences can progress further. This is my take on it. I'll just touch on it. Now you see this idea of Brahman, people, I'm very pleased that you can even pronounce it or even come across this term. Majority of people have not come across, even the Hindus have not come across this term. What he's simply saying is this, he says, look, you see this reality you're so sure about, the physical world, the mental world, the intellectual world, all this world, underpinning everything is something which is essentially not a person, thankfully, otherwise we're in trouble. It is a principle that underpins reality. This simple word is principle. It's very crucial because it is this principle, and the word they use is Brahman. Brahman means a cosmic principle. That's what it literally means. So a cosmic principle that underpins reality. And this particular, look, you see, when I talk like this, suppose to a physicist, go away, Mr. Lakhani, you're going in the airy-fairy area. But so be it. Well, see how it kind of links up with most of the issues that you raised. So this thing, the principle that underpins reality, manifest. Look at the word is very tricky. It says it appears, it manifests as the reality in front of your eyes, as the world that you inhabit. So it is basically something that appears as the world around you, the physical, the mental, the intellectual world. So it is something that really in a way kind of manifests, appears is the right word, not in many, it appears. It doesn't become the world, it appears as the world. Now this is a very ancient idea, since ancient times, they said this is how reality can be explained. It is this principle that underpins everything, that links. There's a tremendous interconnectedness of everything in the creation, connected strongly.
Like a life force.
Yes.
Perhaps.
So this it's not even a force, not even energy. It's just that's why it's a principle. Don't even use the word energy. It just manifests as the creation. Now you see, fair enough. You can go into this kind of idyllic, poetic language. But what the heck is this all about? Then he says the following. He says the same thing. Then is trying to, this manifestation wants greater expression, wants to become more clearly visible, so it becomes visible as the living thing. So the same thing that appears in the material world, the creation, then as you see something is buzzing, a little single cell being buzzing. So the same thing underpinning is now finding greater expression as a living thing. It doesn't get stopped there. It wants to continue to find greater expression, so it multiplies, it continues to evolve, continues to interact with each other species and grow into a much more mature species until it turns into a human frame. So we are seeing the underpinning that appearing as a creation, then it's not enough, not satisfied, it tries to stir up matter and become a living thing, and from there it becomes human. And this is the idea, the heart of Hindu tradition is that essentially something very great and grand is manifesting itself through the eyes of every human being. Every living thing, especially human beings, could become more clearly visible, much more well manifested. And this is the process. Now, you see, the reason why I'm bringing it up is this. This process is very keen to continue, doesn't want to get snuffed out. This process manifesting itself as a living thing doesn't want to stop. So there is tremendous, this is why you have this gender attraction, you've got this tremendous drive for evolution to continue. So when you get people like Richard Dawkins giving tremendous importance to evolution, the reason why is the selfish gene trying to multiply itself, say why the heck does it do it? There's nothing in matter which says, multiply and continue. There's something non-material using material process in order to continue to manifest itself. So when all this biology put a lot of emphasis on just idea of, the kind of genetic material keen to carry on, or this kind of idea of evolution is the name of the game. So the idea of genetic, the selfish gene trying to reproduce and continue its journey appears to be the focus of that attention. If we say go, they say no, go away. We say genes are keen to carry on. They say yes, that's exactly what modern biology is all about. I'm saying, okay, you're in the right track. The only thing is, I'm saying the reason why this is happening is because something underpinning is trying to continue to manifest itself in greater and greater force. And that is why evolution, idea of genetic transmission is so crucial and central. That's why you focus on that, but I'm focusing on the force that is doing it. There's no Mr. Lakhani, it's just by chance.
So if I summarize what he said, basically, the reason why we're continuing to evolve is for there's this greater underpinning thing trying to drive for greater expression, basically. And humans right now, as far as we know, is the pinnacle of that, of the expression of Brahman. Until we discover aliens that can travel through space. But it's very interesting though, and the idea also, I mean, basically saying they're kind of the same in terms of evolution and driving to continue to reproduce. That drive, what is causing that, and I think Richard Dawkins, according to what he's saying, is that it's I didn't quite understand, but it's basically there's just this drive. It's the reason why we exist today is because of that drive, and we don't know what that drive is. But Lakhani here is saying, I believe, is the expression of Brahman trying to express itself, and that drive is that expression in all things. But then you got kind of like, I guess, well, I thought of this, like, what about people who don't want to have kids? Then what happened to that expression? Is he going to say that it's expressed in different ways, maybe like painting or music or art, or I don't know. And then if the only way to express this is through reproduction, then what happens when we over reproduce? The earth can only handle so many people. That expression ends up, in a sense, killing itself. I don't know. My thought is, I don't know about this underpinning thing. My only theory that I can think of is just, again, I guess it goes to the randomness factor, which I believe he was saying about Richard Dawkins, where it's just these random connections, and kind of like in our brain, and how they fire. And some of those failed utterly. There's literally mass extinctions happening throughout the entirety of the Earth because some expressions or some evolutions didn't quite work out right. Some may have never gotten started. I mean, for right now, for all we know, in your backyard right now, there could be something, or in the streets, whatever, just somewhere, there's something trying to evolve, but immediately dies, and that's the end of that species. Because the evolution didn't quite end up right, and we would have never known about it, because we're not sitting here searching every aspect of the Earth for different kinds of species. So I guess that's my theory anyway, which has no basis. I mean, I'm not studied science or biology or anything, but that's how I can see it like that. As in, again, you know, I'm sure there's new species in a sense every day, but some species die before we even know it. And when I mean species, I don't mean like large animals. I mean microorganisms stuff. And those microorganisms can grow and develop, become bigger or more evolved, but sometimes they just don't make it. I think I'll throw this out there. Again, merely my opinion. Fact check me on it, whatever you want. As a matter of fact, you should always. Is that there are more species that have died than have survived on Earth. I mean, I think that's pretty known to be true.
It's just by evolutionary chance that certain genes kind of combine together and continue to kind of rattle on, but there's nothing underpinning it. I'm saying there is something underpinning it, and that is now being visible through the quantum phenomena. That's what I'm suggesting. Sorry, I can get carried away.
No, please do. But the quantum phenomena are suggesting this and other things. There's another Hindu word I came across, or Hindi word, which is prana. I think, and I think what you're saying is what Crick and Watson, when they discovered DNA, said they've killed vitalism,
Correct.
and it seems like it's making a bit of a comeback, hopefully, and partly through quantum and through biologists who are incorporating the ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just touch on this Brahman, because then it will answer some of your other questions.
Please,
of course, you
please,
raise
please.
them as we go. You're welcome to stop me and
Sure,
hang on, what's
Quit peeking.
all this? Do that, because it makes it more genuinely interactive.
Sure. That's
Okay, now this Brahman is good. Suppose you say this, okay, you talk a principle. What's its nature? What's its nature? This is where the real fun begins. We say the nature of this thing that we call the principle, it defies description, defies any kind of capturing attempt. But we say still there are three words we can use to express what is this Brahman, this principle all about. And three words come out like magic, and like thunderbolts are. The word in Sanskrit are asti, bhati, priya. In English it simply says this Brahman we're talking of is of the it is not that, but it's of the nature of existence. This is the first word. It is of the nature of consciousness. It's of the nature of bliss. This underpinning of this reality, if you want some handle on it, say, come on, Mr. Lakhani, just don't be airy-fairy. Come on, give me some handle to hang on to it. I say it's of the nature of existence. It's of the nature of consciousness. It's of the nature of bliss. You say, okay, it's still kind of floaty, it's still kind of poetic, but what the heck? Now, you see, you may think this is coming and biting us on the backside in physics today. I'll show you how. If you, for example, ask a physicist, a quantum physicist, okay, you got the Schrodinger's equation, which you solve it so beautiful. Oh, I can see exactly how the electrons are moving in a box. Well, we know all the mathematical trickery. Good. Suppose we say this equation that you are so fixated on gives you the nature of reality. That's what the Schrodinger's equation operates. It gives you the nature of reality. You say, give it some physical interpretation. It has got all these eyes in it. Eyes, which means non-physical.
Right.
They say, no, but give us some physical feature so that I can also get a handle on your Schrodinger's equation. Forget about my Brahman, your Schrodinger's equation. They say the only way we can describe this thing that we call Schrodinger's equation is if you square it with itself, then it produces probability of existence. These are the exact words. Probability of, the word appears that hits me straight, existence. So it's a wiggle in existence. Schrodinger's equation is just a wiggle in existence. No matter, not material, no electron, nothing. Just a wiggle in existence is the foundation of Schrodinger's equation in quantum physics. Now see, this word has come to me again. I told you, the thing that we are talking about, Brahman, is of the nature of, it doesn't say existence, it's of the nature, otherwise we don't need the second word for it. It's of the nature of existence. And it is, as I said, you see, suppose it's existence, how do you get your hand around existence? You say you can't. You can only talk about what exists, but not existence itself. How do you catch it? You see, it's very difficult. But a wiggle in existence is what this world is all about. Now, this may have sounded very, outdated 100 years back, but since 1920s, and since Schrodinger's equation came into being, this has become a reality. It is a shadow in existence that describes reality.
Well, it's from the Big Bang now. They're trying to find a wiggle in existence now, aren't they? Different densities, which apparently lead to the creation of everything. And I've got my maths isn't good enough, but I do have my doubts.
No, it's good to talk. But you see, the reason why I'm bringing it is this. It is this kind of wiggle in existence that explains this creation that we kind of come across. The other thing that comes out is of the nature of consciousness itself. Again, the hard problem of physical science is this quantum phenomenon, which is really making hell for a physicist. And the hard problem of neuroscience or life science is the issue of consciousness. Now, both these things they're trying to explain it away in physical terms. Say in quantum physics, they're still trying to say electron spin, doing this and that. That's why you have this weird connectedness, or quantum entanglement, as they call it. But in reality, what they are kind of still avoiding, not facing up to, is that this deeper reality is nothing but a shudder in existence, and it is not something that exists. So suppose I say here's an electron, here's a proton, here's a spin. These are physical realities, but the thing underpinning is not necessarily physical whatsoever. And the beautiful part is the idea of consciousness also comes through in a very dramatic manner. So they're saying this thing that you call consciousness is also, in a way, handle on this underpinning Brahman. So again, from two different areas, we feel tremendous resonance. So the hard problem of neuroscience, consciousness, hard problem of physical science, quantum, come together. And in fact, my job is this, Robert. I'm trying very hard to see if I can give a conceptual leap of how to link up this to phenomena and give a better understanding of modern physics itself, because it is struggling. Again, people don't realize, and only few very mature scientists realize, that modern physics, especially theoretical physics, has gone into a cul-de-sac. Since 1920s, it's not come out of the cul-de-sac yet. That is why Feynman used to go in 1960 telling everybody, I can safely say no scientists know what we are talking about. Let's look at the language. It has gone into a cul-de-sac, it has still not come out. This was in 1960 with Feynman, but now, even now, look at anybody, they'll say, we don't understand the phenomena itself.
So in order to progress, they need to look at a view of reality rather than technical explanations.
That's right, they need to look, I tell you, this is
It's metaphysics rather than physics.
But this is the problem, though. It's the fact that, again, I gave an example before. Like I said, hey, there's a unicorn right here on my shoulder. You can't see it. And basically, it's like, well, you know, it exists here. It's like, okay. I mean, maybe you say, like, okay, let me say, prove it to me. You know, I mean, I'll believe you in a sense, but prove to me that there's a unicorn here. Like, it's like, well, it's not physical. You can't touch it. You can't use any kind of material machines to touch it. It's like, well, then it's a little hard to believe that it's true. I mean, again, I'm fine with people saying, hey, there's a unicorn here. It's like, okay. But, you know, you don't say it's true, that it's real, until you can prove it. And I guess that's the problem with what Lakhani's trying to do. It's trying to prove the non-existence in a sense, because it's not material. Is it non-existence or is it non-material? I think you say non-material, but it exists, but not in a material form. So if it exists, it must exist, but in a form, maybe not material form, but in a form. So if it exists in a form, we may not have a tool to measure that form yet. It's kind of weird. Say it exists, but not in material form. I had something else I was gonna say, but that thought threw me off a little bit. Oh. Okay. The formula of math. I was watching actually what is it called? Math support. Wired. I believe they talked to a mathematician there. And they're saying, and I guess one of the questions was, can I create my own math? And the mathematician said, yeah, you can actually, so long as you make the equations make sense and work. And I'm wondering if all these imaginary numbers are formulated in such a way that makes sense, that it actually works in math, but the applications doesn't quite make sense for it. Like, you can make an imaginary number work in math if you really thought about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it exists in the world, or at least in the material plane. And I get Lakhani a bit here. Again, like I said a little bit earlier, it's just the fact that, you know, you're trying to explain something that's not, either doesn't exist or does not exist in the material plane. That's very difficult.
They have to think outside the physical box. We are stuck in the physical box.
Yeah, material.
We cannot think about outside the physical box. Everything, even now when I look at some, Seth Lloyd, etc., talking about, the photosynthesis, is fixated on electrons doing this spin and that spin, and see if that can perhaps explain, or even birds migrating, certain, some spin in the brain, etc., is kind of hanging onto the electromagnetic field, etc. They try and explain everything away in terms of matter and material feature, and it is very much like shoehorning, somehow to try and avoid saying that there's something, a deeper reality that we must be aware of, and we must play ball with it rather than run away from it.
Well, that's actually good. I do believe both need to work out their figures at that point. The scientist that believe that it manifests in a material plane needs to continue his research down that path, and the person, Lakhani, would have to go down his path of the immaterial plane and find a way to explain it. Although I will say Lakhani will have the more difficult time explaining a non-material to a materialistic world, in a sense. It's very difficult. It's like, well, this this non-material thing is what's causing this. So again, we can say, okay, there's the plane of material which exists, and there's another plane that's immaterial that also exists. But you can't. This thing that he's explaining cannot be non-existent, because then no matter what plane it exists on, it doesn't exist. So the material plane and then the immaterial plane, I suppose. That, again, he's just gonna have a tough uphill battle with that explanation.
It's, with collective intelligence, you see that. Well, I can quote you, and it's from James Clerk Maxwell, and I read a nice autobiography, and it did the spinning cell, to having predicted electromagnetic waves.
You see, James Maxwell was also very much a spiritually oriented individual, a Christian, devout Christian, but very spiritually oriented. But the same is true of the father of quantum physics. I like to say that Arthur, Schrodinger, the father of quantum physics, the one who was saying I should have never touched the plastic phenomena. Now, Erwin Schrodinger said something very interesting in one of his lectures. He said, in order to understand this quantum phenomena, I think we have no choice but to look at Eastern metaphysics. And he was talking about me, of course.
Same with Bohm's on the same, hasn't it?
Yes, same. Bohm is also same. So these kind of people who are very clear that there is something missing and it requires, if you like, a different angle, different approach to it, was somebody like Schrodinger. And I like him, this guy, because he was actually sincerely trying to make sense of this reality as kind of conjured up. He conjured up as a mathematical formalism, and yet it is a reality, and you can explain the whole of the creation to the 10th decimal place, using that quantum phenomena. And he said, but how? It doesn't, it kind of flies in the face of common sense.
There's a nice quote from Maxwell when he talked about the model and various models. He was saying, he said, it's a bit like bell ringers, and we pull the string. We know what sound's coming out, but we don't know what's happening in the belfry.
Middle sound. That's right. The whole thing remains unknown. It stays, shrouded in mystery. And the thing is, if I'm saying very clearly, if modern physics or even modern neuroscience wants to progress further, it has to embrace a known physical reality. So I'm saying, please don't underestimate this Brahman chap. He's really nuisance, but he's there underpinning everything. You need to accept it, and then you can see the link.
Whoa, they don't need to accept it. That's where I go against. I was like, well, they need to explore it. Absolutely. I think there should people, who's open and willing to try it. They could, it's kind of an incentive if you're the first neuroscientist to discover this thing. That's a high incentive to be the founder or the person that found this, and be recognized for it. So you can give them a little push incentive, but they don't have to accept it. Just a little thing there, Lakhani. I'm pushing my ideas out there. I don't believe pushing people into things, but talk to them and say, hey, look, this could be something new, and you could be the first person to discover it.
Between consciousness and quantum and all that, so this is possible provided you are prepared to embrace a deeper vision regarding reality. I've not come across a single modern physicist, etc., who is able to do that. Apart from Schrodinger saying, it's in Eastern metaphysics, but that's it. And he couldn't go any further. He didn't know what else to say. But it is a serious problem facing modern sciences today. It's not going to go away. And things like photosynthesis come and bite them on the backside, say, come on, explain me. And they are not able to, unless you use quantum phenomena, all of this living kingdom will disappear. As simple as that. Is that dramatic? If it was a minor issue, I would say, okay, we can find some excuse. All of this creation is sustained by photosynthesis. And that process requires quantum, guaranteed, otherwise it cannot take place. Because when a photon comes into the leaf, it doesn't know where to go, and it'll just get lost. There are so many molecules, there's only one place where it can be turned into energy, and it has no time to find that. It'll lose all its energy in the process. The only way somehow it seems to know, I have to go there. How does it know? What is this interconnectedness between the photon and that particular center that it has reached? It somehow knows instantaneously where to go. This is where the mystery lies.
Is he talking about the photons that hit the plant leaves? Again, not a biologist here, but I would assume maybe some of the energy that the sun. I think, I don't know if I heard this or not, but I'm assuming a lot of the sun rays is going to waste. It's obviously not every sun ray is being hit by the plant. Some of it's hitting pavement, some of it's being reflected back up into the atmosphere, some of it is being a lot of it, I guess technically a lot of it's being absorbed, considering that it is white light, and that's how we see color. The reflections of the sun, in a sense. But I don't know about plants like this, the sun rays hitting the plant knowing where to go. I think the plant's out there say, hey, I gotcha.
Mystery of life.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's amazing. It's the impossible unknown, isn't it? And we, in the West, we tend to have the idea that the impossible unknown is right at the quantum level or at the Big Bang, but it's around us, all the time.
All the time.
I mean, for example, one of the biologists I want to interview, Rupert Sheldrake, who was considered a pariah, for he was rejected,
Yes.
for a long time. But the excellent point he makes, he was a top cell biologist, is that with stem cells, as they, I'm sure that you realise, as they double, they're all identical, and you get 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Eventually, they differentiate into blood cells and hair cells and muscle cells, what have you. And become, the person, but how they differentiate has got nothing to do with what's inside the
Physical,
cell.
yes. Something else is working. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You see, Rupert Sheldrake has also done a lot of interesting research on telepathy, and I like that. You see, there are some people I have respect, and he's one of these people, because even though he's kind of going into a realm which is non-physical and struggling, he keeps banging on this idea. So he talks about telepathy. He's done so many experiments where dogs remember the owners are coming, and it's real. It's recorded. It's not. So he said, the problem is this: when you give this kind of, how do you define science? Science definition: you see a pattern, you need to explain it. You can't just say, "Oh, it just happened by chance." That's what they would try and do. But there is something going on. It's not just it can be repeated again and again, like any other scientific experiment. So if you see a pattern, you need to explain it. So rather than explain it, they say, "Oh, it's just woolly. It's just woolly stuff. It can't be real," because they don't know the physical phenomena, physical feature which will allow information to travel. But then again comes quantum with this idea of entanglement. I mean, the whole of this creation strongly intertwined instantaneously, not at the speed of light.
No transmission at all.
None, zero. So it transcends time, transcends space, instantaneous. And Brahman would fit that criteria.
It's like the implicate order, I think.
That's right. It's already there. So Brahman would fit in this requirement that you transcend time, you transcend distance, and there's a strong link between the whole of this creation. And Brahman is the best link that we can think about, which comes from the Hindu philosophy.
So those the
Brahman is not limited by time, not limited by space, and not limited by object. It is all of time, all of space, and all of objects. Well, yeah, and again, that's something I can't believe. But I would say that maybe Brahman maybe is a physical thing. Again, don't know for sure. The way I believe it, until something changed my mind, is that Brahman is this. Well, we'll just call it this: a cell that is the absolute smallest thing that we can ever find. No matter how advanced science goes, 500 million billion years into the future, this is it. This is the smallest thing we find. Nothing's gotten smaller. We've gotten bigger and bigger, stronger microscopes or whatever, and this is it. And that cell is Brahman, or whatever that is. Which then I could believe.
These unknown forces. One thing I'd like to clear up for me. Richard Feynman was interviewed many times. There was a series of interviews where they were apparently people in the BBC, a science correspondent was told, just get as much as you can out of this guy because he's been going for 300 years. I don't know if you agree with that or not. But one of the poor answers he gave, the one weak answer he didn't like. It's like when you ask cosmologists about the beginning of time, and they give you some elegant answer, and you say to them, what happened before that? They don't like it, and he was asked. And I'm not sure, I need clarification on this. He couldn't answer how magnets work. Is it true that no one knows actually the cause and effect of how a magnet works?
Magnets themselves are very unusual physical phenomena, but you need to bring it, again, it is coming purely as a very much a mathematical phenomena. When you're doing electromagnetism, it's okay, this electrical vibration and this magnetic vibration perpendicular. You say, but what the heck is this thing?
Oh crap, I thought this was a joke. This is quite serious. Magnets? There's a joke going on that's like, oh, we don't know how magnets work. I guess, is that like legit?
Vibrating. Main question, what the heck is vibrating? They say, we don't know, we just take it because it works so well. So they got the mathematical formalism, but they only really understood magnetism in this particular sense. But let me touch something else that you just talked about. And I like Paul Davies. He's a wonderful physicist, very well known, extremely mature. He said one thing very interesting which I immediately caught on. He said, science is very successful in the mundane way, but when you look at the very small, so he's talking about quantum, when you look at the very big, cosmology, when you look at the very complex, life itself, when you look at the subject, who the heck am I, making sense of the world, in all these four places, physics or sciences begin to show their kind of limitation, serious limitation. They appear there in tatters.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. Especially, I mean, in my opinion, science is something that's just, again, it's objective, not subjective. How we live our lives, there could be some science, statistical science, should I say, like what the probability of you doing certain things in life based on your past experience. If you give this computer enough data, it be able to predict your life relatively well and what actions you would take when you're under certain circumstances. Now, cosmology, I don't know anything about that. I think of makeup, which I know it's wrong. The absolute small, I think maybe science might be able to get to it. It's just maybe not, the technology portion might not be advanced enough yet. And I forgot what the fourth one was, but let's continue.
So at the very small, very large, very complex and subjective, science, normal science stops operating. And we find this in quantum, we find it in the idea of cosmology, we find it in the idea of life, complexity, and we find the idea of who's the subject making sense of the world. So this is a serious thing. Let me touch on...
Life was the one I couldn't remember. Yeah. I was thinking, is life objective or subjective? I'm thinking it's more along the lines of subjective. There are some objective things in life, the things that we like. Well, that would be a subjective thing, actually. I don't know. But yes, I said this before, that science is objective, not subjective. That's the reason why science won't be able to explain individual life, you could say.
Cosmology, because you touched on it, and it's important to give you a Hindu take on it. You'll be surprised.
Right.
And I've said it actually on some of these radio programs as well. You see, the philosophic side of Hinduism has no difficulty with the Big Bang theory. A spontaneous Big Bang, no God setting it off and boom, like that. So we have always talked about it, and I'll tell you how we explain it. This, they say, in fact, the book you're reading, Vivekananda, is the one who brought it into London in 1896. He said, 3 things unfold for creation to come into being. 3 things. And the subject matter was absolute and manifestation. See, the same language, absolute and manifestation. He said 3 things unfold for creation to come into being. In a way, this agrees with Kantian philosophy, Kantian. He says a priori, when you see the world, it's either space, time, and causation. Agrees with that. But this is a very ancient Hindu thought. It says 3 things unfold. And they are very interesting. They say Desh, Kar, Nimit. They mean space, time, and causation. When they unfold, creation comes into being. So what the heck? They are very abstract concepts, space, time, what the heck? But then when you look at the Big Bang Theory is very beautiful physical theory, well supported by a lot of research, looking at Hubble telescope, how galaxies move away from each other, at what speed. And if you run the film backwards, okay, 13.7 billion years ago, boom, there was a single spot, and boom, it's opened up. Spontaneous creation.
84 Big Bangs. I think I thought of this. Yeah, I thought this just about a few years before. I remember hearing Sadhguru talking about the number 84. I forgot who he told it to, but it says, "Remember 84." I'm like, 84. Would it be 84 Big Bangs? Because I thought of, maybe this isn't the first time this universe existed. But then again, I don't know. I was just guessing that maybe, because again, I've watched a few random stuff on YouTube, just whatever happens to pop up, and the fact that one of the theories is that the Big Bang's collapsing, and based on that, it's like, well, if it collapsed to a singularity, then once it gets to a breaking point, it explodes again. It's like, what happens if the universe exploded and collapsed so many times? And then I was like, that's a pretty good theory, maybe. I don't know if the universe is in fact collapsing on itself yet, or anything like that. But then Sadhguru says 84. We're like, oh, and I think it was related to the Big Bang a bit. Now, whether it's 84 Big Bangs or not, I don't know. But I'm like, could this be the 84th Big Bang?
So immediately when you ask Stephen Hawking what was there before Big Bang, he said, don't ask the question, it's irrelevant, because there was no time. Time starts with Big Bang. It's okay, we play ball with you. But then a question still arose. And the theologians were very keen to kind of explore this question, which says, who caused the Big Bang? What triggered it? Even though you say spontaneous, but surely there's some, because we believe in causation, surely somebody must have caused it, ting, like that. And the answer that doesn't come from the Big Bang theory of cosmology, doesn't come from Stephen Hawking, but comes from us, is very simple. It says causation comes with the Big Bang. So when the creation comes into being, the idea things have to be linked by cause and effect also becomes visible. So if you ask what caused the Big Bang, it's like saying what was there before Big Bang, before what was it? There's no time there, you can't talk about it. So who caused the Big Bang? Why the Big Bang was caused? Who pressed the trigger? That question would remain unanswerable because causation comes with the Big Bang. So you say it's a cop-out, it's not a cop-out. Philosophical is a very sound system of thought saying yes, we agree with spontaneous creation, and yet the question still arose. Is there some causation to it? And the answer is no, causation comes with the Big Bang. See the depth of this teaching. I did a talk at Physics Society, Oxford University on this topic. And I thought I'd be challenged because I did ask Richard Dawkins to come. I was not challenged, I was applauded. So the first time I said, wow, this is interesting. It's a deeper insight on how the creation comes into being.
So of course, yes, one of Rupert Sheldrake's ideas, I don't want to keep using his stuff. But
use it because he's actually looking in the right direction. I'll be very frank, he doesn't have the kind of the background, the philosophical background that I come with. That's not his fault. That's how he is. He's very genuine, very articulate, very intelligent, and is doing his own research in his own way, and so be it. You're not here to interfere. So I have tremendous respect for what he's trying to do.
He's got a very nice. It gave me some solace actually. When there was one of his books which got his first book which got pilloried, and there's in the back there's a transcription of a radio conversation with him and David Bowie, and he does this very elegant attack on atheism,
yes.
and where he says people have this faith in scientific law, and but if you which created everything, some scientific principle. He said, but he says, which is slightly different to what you're saying, that it would have to predate the universe. So you basically need a leap of faith to be an atheist, to believe that scientific law can
explain everything.
Yeah.
You see, look, people again don't realize this is called scientific exclusivism. And just as you got exclusivist religious lobbies, you also have exclusivist science lobbies. And people like Richard Dawkins strongly belong to that lobby. They're exclusive. They're saying that using our intelligence, seeing the physical empirical world, we can explain everything. There's nothing left out, full stop. And anything else is just poetry. That's how they push everybody like us out you go. This is actually scientific fundamentalism as well. It's exclusivism, saying we alone have monopoly on reality. And now this is surely, come on now, you need to have that maturity to realize that you don't have all the answers. There are a lot of things biting on the backside that needs kind of addressing again and in a deeper way. And this is, again, these people once, BBC, were asking me, this is Ms. Lakhani, what's the link with science and spiritual? I said the link is this. You see, you may think science has proved electromagnetism, gravitation. It has proved nothing. It has just given you mathematical formalism which can explain a pattern. Full stop. So how science progresses to jump from one hypothesis to another hypothesis. You had Newton's idea of gravitation. It was worked very well, and suddenly we flicked it away with Einstein's theory of gravitation. So a hypothesis that was used by Newton to explain the movement of the planets, etc., was kicked out in 2 ticks by Einstein's idea of hypothesis of how creation is operating. So it's just jumping from one hypothesis to another hypothesis. Does it mean we have proved gravitation? Zero. Have we proved electromagnetism? No, zero. We just have the mathematical formalism which we can use to try and tackle how electromagnetism or this phenomena can be, in a way captured in a mathematical format. That's all. We don't care. So people say the science has proved, the science has shown me one theory, the science has actually proved. It's just jumping from one hypothesis to another. Be mature enough to realize your limitation. So when somebody says, oh, it's a belief system, I say, religious belief system, so is science. Science is a belief system too. Just jumping from one belief to another belief.
Okay, you can do that, yeah. Well, I will say this though, but in terms of the belief system, I suppose if you just group all belief system and you jump between them, then yes, I suppose I can't argue that. But in terms of if you follow, say, one belief, then there is only one path and one path only, where science is like they try to figure out as best they can explain it, and they continue to attack their own theories until they destroy it or prove it to be true. That's the thing that I like about science, is the fact that it's not going to sit there and say this is the truth and only the truth and no other truth before it or after it. You cannot change, like certain beliefs out there. But again, I guess that's the thing that I like about science, the fact that, I mean, it sucks that it changes, but it's also good that it changes, because you cannot say this is true, therefore it cannot change, and then you come up with better equipment, better theories, and then you prove the theory a little bit, and you're just like, okay, well, actually this theory does a better job than this old theory, so we throw out the old theory, kind of. And it's kind of weird to say, it's like, oh, well, this is not believable now, this is believable, but it's trying to get the best possible answer with what it's got. And I can appreciate that. Unlike certain religions where it says, this is true, only true, ever true, nothing else is truer than this true, and it cannot budge. That's like,
And this is so, in fact, this is why I feel really quite frustrated and upset when I see this strong exclusivist, fundamentally scientific lobby which is not prepared to open its eyes to greater reality, as you are discovering now with a lot of issues.
and yes, I mean, if someone out there says that everything can be explained by science, I don't know. I don't think so. It's very difficult to explain a person's emotions. Emotions we can understand based on chemicals, but why? What triggers those things? We can say, oh, that triggers that, and whatnot. But it's still very difficult to pin down a human being. The complexity of a human being is, even though they say that human beings are quite predictable, but you cannot predict them to 100% accuracy, though, I do believe.
This approach to sort of breaking everything down to the fundamental parts, that, you know, materialist reductionism, and it has its uses. It does dispel the mystery, but there's a mystery left, and it can't do any more.
Okay, look, again, it's nice to explore the way physical science is developed in ancient Greek, etc. And again, I suspect there's a lot of Hindu input in that as well. The earliest idea that you can explain creation in terms of atom and the void is something that very ancient Hindu philosophy called the Vaisheshika philosophy. It's very much one of the earliest philosophy India developed. There was no God. It was purely materialistic philosophy. We said Vaisheshika can explain the creation in terms of atoms and the void. And Democritus, a Greek philosopher, used to visit India regularly, and he then caught on to that and produced the whole of the physical sciences, explain everything in terms of little lumps of matter and its attributes. This is how physical science has progressed dramatically in a very durable manner. That's why we are well dressed and well looked after, because understood by relating to reality in terms of matter, lump of carbon or whatever, and what are its properties. Oh, it burns. Oh, this is metal, it will bend. By just linking to reality in terms of matter and its epiphenomena, its kind of characteristic, we can make sense of the great old world, and we can in a way harness nature. That's what they've done dramatically. For 2,000 years, this particular methodology has worked dramatically well. Explain everything in terms of matter and its epiphenomena. It didn't stop with, okay, we have carbon and so many. Then they say, oh, okay, there are something called atoms. Oh, by the way, the atoms have got protons and neutrons and electrons running around. Woo-hoo. And they all have properties. Electrons got a spin and mass and charge and so on. So still, you see the same ideology using matter and its epiphenomena to explain creation. It has worked dramatically well for 2,000 years. But through the integrity of that particular process of trying to make sense of the world, they went to the smaller and the smaller and the smaller, and then the whole thing cracked up dramatically. So I tried to explain everything in terms of electrons and protons and neutrons. Suddenly it all disappeared. It just became a fuzz with quantum. So matter that was really kind of holding everything together suddenly is now no longer there. It's like a vibration or something in 4 dimensions or 11 dimensions, whatever. So it is in a way this process itself. It's the integrity of science now which is pointing to a deeper dimension to reality which is non-physical. So through the process of physical observation, we are coming to the nitty-gritty, saying that when you try and in a way capture, if you like, the fabric of reality, we suddenly find that there is no there's nothing, there's no matter left there. Mm-hmm. And this is what we are finding with modern physics.
But when they defend quantum physics, quantum physicists, they always point to all the things that it's done, all the things it's achieved.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that because you're able to use the mathematical formalism to understand the deeper working of very smaller than the smallest. In fact, look, this is why we get all these gizmos. It's pure quantum. All these gizmos are working on quantum phenomena. So they have mastered it. They have mastered the mathematical formalism to capture this particular process, but they have not understood the process. It's like Maxwell saying, we know how to pull the bell and get the thing working, but we don't know the process. The same thing if you've got a child. The child will, okay, he goes in his father's car, he turns the engine, the key, and the engine goes, woohoo, I know. He says, I've become so clever, I know. I do this, and the engine, boom, goes in effect. And we know yet that he has not understood anything of the depth of what is going under the bonnet. So in the same way, the physicists have discovered a kind of mathematical formalism which gives them tremendously refined handle on reality. We love that. And yet, what they are discovering, they're not prepared to, in a way, kind of swallow it. There's something non-material at the heart of reality. That's what the fathers of quantum physics discovered, and that's why they're pulling the hair out.
Okay, a couple of more questions.
Okay, actually, so yeah, I'm going to pause right here because it's running out of time. But real quick with the last part, it's actually a great example about the kid starting up the car. For example, he doesn't know how the inner engine works, but kind of like how maybe if we put ourselves in this timeline, the science in a way, the science right now, we see a car, it's like, oh, that's nice. We get into the car and that's science advancing. Science all of a sudden, oh, key. So now we discover the key and we discover the car. Then all of a sudden we put the key there, oh, it fits in there. Science is advancing. Science like, oh, it turns. Science is advancing. Then it cranks it. And then you're like, again, science is advanced. And what I mean by that is basically science is advancing more and more to the point where we're at the starting the car part. And maybe if we continue to explore and our techniques become better and our equipment becomes better, maybe we'll find the latch of the hood and pull on it and it goes click, the hood clicks open and like, oh, now we need to look under the hood of the car and find that little thing that we have to pull out so that we can lift up the hood. You know, again, all these finding the thing to click to open up the hood, that little latch so that you can pull up the hood, because without moving that latch the hood won't open. It's a safety thing. So that little thing that moves the latch is an equipment. Lifting the hatch is an equipment. Holding up the hood is an equipment. Looking at the car is an equipment or a process. So I'm just wondering if science hasn't advanced far enough to where it becomes part of the material realm. I mean, you look back in the past of the history of mankind. Storms used to believe that it was magic, but yet we discover it's not. Or like gods in the immaterial realm causing thunderstorms or earthquakes and whatnot, volcanoes, wars even probably. And then it's just maybe science hasn't gotten far enough. I don't know. The metaphysical realm, I'm wondering, is that going to be also like how the early humans thought about, well, everything else? Like if you go back in the past with your cell phone, take pictures, somehow stream YouTube on there, they're going to think you're some kind of magician, you're a god or something, just because all these stuff that you're showing them is something they've never ever seen in the entirety of their life. But anyway, that's just my theory. I don't know. It could very well be real. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I understand what he says. I'm understanding what he's saying. And it's very much, I can't think of a way of explaining it from my personal experience other than just, well, nothing really. Yeah, nothing really. So, but anyways, again, maybe science hasn't advanced far enough, or maybe no matter how far science advanced, it will never discover it. We just don't know just yet. I mean, right now, science doesn't know for sure. That is absolutely true. And anyways, that's the first part of Consciousness Q&A with Robert J. Lakhani, Hindu Academy. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next vid.